Hello everyone, my name is Jake from Talk Too Much, and today I'm here to talk about the new Bride movie that came out. And immediately going into this movie, I didn't really know what to expect. The trailer looked great, but the one thing I had holding back onto this was, is it going to be style and substance, or is it going to be style no substance? So that's kind of what my thought was, and I thought the cast looked great. I mean, you have Christian Bale and Jessie Buckley as a lead, which I heard she's been on a roll with the whole Hamnet movie, something I have not seen. But so this is like my first proper introduction to her, as well as a directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, who I think this is only her second movie she's done, other than a short story. So going into this, I very much got the vibe of Bonnie and Clyde. Simple story of Christian Bale, who plays as Frankenstein, going up to the doctor and being like, "Hey, I'm lonely. Please build me someone." That's pretty much the whole point of this movie, is that Frankenstein is completely alone and he just wants another partner. So they decide to dig up Jessie Buckley, and they're like, "We're gonna bring her back to life, and of course, you're going to be the bride." And going into this, so I'll go into my positives, my negatives, what I liked, what I disliked. And so starting off with the likes, I love the performances in this movie. I thought Jessie Buckley nailed it. I thought Christian Bale was incredible. I would also go as far as to say Penelope Cruz did a phenomenal job in this. I was actually paying attention to her almost just as much as the other two main characters, because her costume and the way she was looking, playing as a detective, I thought was wonderful. And so the setting is another thing I want to highlight in the likes. I love the setting. It's 1930s and it goes from Chicago to New York, so it goes back and forth between those two settings. And I thought the way everything looked was great. But unfortunately, and with all that being said, um, this is where we start to get to where my mixes and as well as my dislikes. Because this is one big mixed bag. Um, Starting off with one big mix that I had was just the script. The script writing, it's very repetitive after a certain point. You get to where the movie is building up and up, and then you get to a certain scene that happens, and once you kind of go that, you realize by the end of it, that was the peak. And it just only went downhill from there. And I hate to say that, but it felt like this movie did not need to be a 2 hour runtime. A script that was very mixed on. It very much brought out the performances of Christian Bale and Jessie Buckley, which I really did like, as along with the doctor and the two detectives that were following them. And I thought they were great. It very much helped with the situation they were going on. However, you start to get into a little bit of trouble in the back half, where it felt like Jessie Buckley was just repeating the same lines over and over and over again, to where you also kind of feel like there's not really going to be much of a conclusion to this. Another big, I would say, mixed, but also mixed positive, is the way that they set the story up. There's very much a narration voice going along in Jessie Buckley's head, towards the beginning of this movie, leading up to how she becomes a bride and after she has become the bride, that I felt like without that narration, the movie kind of would have been just one note and kept going. It would have made her feel less important of a character. You probably wouldn't have followed through as much with her, and would have cared more so for Christian Bale and his character. But of course, it's How the Bride, so it has to be about the bride. So I felt like the narration that was going on in Jessie Buckley's head was very much a helpful case for this movie, and kind of set the tone where it was going to go from the very beginning. And they make it very clear. These are all my mixes, and unfortunately, this is where I get to my dislikes. Now, I was very underwhelmed with this movie. I was on board for it for like the first maybe 30, 45 minutes of this movie. And keep in mind, it's a 2 hour runtime. And then after that certain scene hit, everything just hit the fan. I hate to say it like that, but it did. It felt like the characters were very lost. It also kind of felt like I mentioned earlier, the writing felt a little repetitive over and over and over again. It didn't feel like it was kind of going anywhere. This movie also suffered from a big issue of trying to fit in multiple ways that this movie could end and not deciding on which one to follow all the way through. And so with that, it's like you get to one ending and you're like, oh, this is how they're going to end the movie. Drags on for another 10 minutes. Oh, this is how they're going to end the movie. Drags on for another 10 minutes. And it didn't feel like it knew how it wanted to conclude. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, this is a Bonnie and Clyde story. Clearly, let's just end it like a Bonnie and Clyde story. And they don't even go with that route. Another dislike I had for the movie is it felt like it was trying to throw a political message in the film when that's not exactly at all what the story was supposed to be. Now, I could be missing some things. Please do tell me down below if I did miss anything. But there's a certain scene with Jessie Buckley where she very much is outspoken. She's waving a gun. And this isn't spoilers. I mean, you see it in the trailer. And that scene was supposed to represent a message of just kind of like how her and Christian Bale have been treated throughout the movie, and how with the way that they are presented to themselves, I mean, they came back from the dead. They look like they came back from the dead. And it somehow tried to take that scene and snowball it into a political movement. And it just did not click. It stuck out like a sore thumb. It didn't work. And whereas I get where that political message was supposed to be, I also felt like a lot of the assaulting that goes on was completely unnecessary. There was no point to have that in the movie. It wasn't even dialed back. I mean, you see it happen within the first 10 to 15 minutes. It just keeps happening over and over again, and nothing really gets done by it. And there's one scene where Jessie Buckley is being assaulted by these two guys, and eventually Christian Bale just gets tired of it, beats the shit out of them, stomps them, curb stomps them, everything. And it's just that's the one scene where it felt like that situation was handled. And then outside of that, everybody just sees these photos and act like they were in that scene with Jessie Buckley, and they start copycatting her and treating it like a political movement. And it's just, to me, that didn't click. That didn't kind of work with me. Going back to another one of my mixes that I have in my dislikes, this movie is 2 hours long. And you feel it. You feel it the whole entire time. The beginning was good. And like I said, it was going up to a certain point. And then it just falls off. It falls off. And it feels like the fall is lasting longer than the rise. And I was so disappointed by that, to where I'm like, I almost wanted to pull out my phone and just look at the time and be like, okay, are we almost done with this? Like, this is happening nonstop. Another big critique, and this was something that I was very disappointed in. The setting is 1930s, and of course there's a lot of cool styles that go on with that decade. They don't embrace it. They're wearing the same outfits like 99% of the whole movie. There's very few times, and they don't change into anything. They don't embrace the 30s that well. I mean, honestly, if you were to show me a couple of clips of these, I wouldn't be able to tell that it's the 30s. I would have guessed it's from the 20s, maybe the 30s. It could also possibly be the 40s. It didn't signify the decade that they were in, which also was kind of just a letdown. And so when you're very much listening that this is Frankenstein in the 1930s, I thought they would have put just a little bit more effort into the costumes. That's the only thing. I felt like they would have embraced it more. So that was also a big letdown. But overall, what I will conclude with is saying, if you are a fan of these actors and you just simply like their performances, I would personally go out and see it. Just for the performances alone, they do a great job in trying to keep you invested with the story. They do a wonderful job of that. After watching this, if I was to go one weekend to the movies and I saw a whole list of movies that were just filled with unknown actors and actresses, and I look through and I see one with Jessie Buckley, I'm gonna lean towards that one just because I want to see more of her performances in that, because I think she, like I said, she did a phenomenal job in this movie. She carried this movie quite a bit. She did some shocking things that I thought were hilarious too. It's just really a shame. She did the best with what she was dealt with. I'll put it like that. Repetition just got very annoying, and like I said, they were falling into the issue of we could have ended this like 3 different scenes ago, and we chose not to. So, go out and see it. I'm just a little bit underwhelmed by it. Maybe it's just me. If you're curious, go check it out. It looks great in IMAX. Overall, I'm going to have my rating right here. I'm going to update this later because right now I need to sit with this with some final thoughts. But overall, this is going to be my rating for the movie. So go out and see it if you're curious about it. It's one of the biggest movies that's come out this year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it more than I did. If you ever want to come back, take a look at my channel and follow up on the next video.